Morning, lads. I've been asked by one of the members to show you how I apply chestnut spirit stains. Now, if you haven't got an airbrush, you have to use obviously brush or a cloth, something like that. And the thing is, you can't really control this applying the paint because it's always going to go on thick, and to get a graduated wash is quite difficult. So if I use the brush first, and this is over a piece of ash. Now I've left marks, I've left some sanding marks in the bottom here, so as you can see how if you don't get rid of all your marks properly, it just shows up. Let's have a bit more there. So you've no real control about how much you put on, see? And to get a graduated wash, it involves a bit of sanding. So we'll just finish this off. It dries very quickly, so there's no problem with having to wait. This is just blue, it's not royal blue, it's blue. Could use a bigger brush, it would go on quicker. Okay, so that's it. If you have a closer look, that's it. Now what we could do is we could wait for that to dry, I suppose. Then again we could go in with another coat, but we'll just do on half of it, and then we'll let it dry, and then you can see the difference. So if I just coat this bottom section, as you can see, I'm not daubing the second coat on. Okay, so can you see immediately that that is darker than that? Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll let that dry a minute, and then we'll sand it and see what happens then. Okay, so it's nearly dryish, and we'll try some just ordinary, this is 180 sandpaper by hand. Excuse me. The problem with putting it on with a brush is that it really soaks in to the grain. So more often than not, what do? If you want to fade it, you have to power sand it. So if I take this spot here, now this is the bit that had one coat on, if you remember. So if I now work my way down to where we put two coats, it is getting there, but it's hard work. So I've got a Delta sander, which is this thing here. Now if I put yeah, we'll put a 180 on there again, just to keep it the same. Got some there somewhere. There it is. Right. Turn that on. Go to that bit again. so you can see what's happening here. If we go back to the where's it gone? If we go back to the, take that off, this one. Do some more hand sanding. That's taken a lot of the colour out using the Delta sander, but then you can refine it if you want to by hand sanding it. Of course, you could use a rotary sander if you wanted. So we'll do that, shall we, next, and see what happens. Where is it? Great. So you can see the difference. That's where 2 coats went on, and this is where 1 coat went on. Now what would happen if we now put another coat on? Can we see what happens? That. Get some more blue. Incidentally, I've had this brush in some thinners to try and clean it, some cellulose thinners to try and clean it up. I need to get a cloth to wipe the brush, get rid of the thinners off it. Okay, we start at the bottom again. Just a tad more. See, you're using an awful lot of paint doing it this way as well. Don't forget, you've got to really sand it down before you put any paint on it, otherwise it's going to show up every mark. And you've got to be careful when you're resanding it, when you're taking the paint off as well, not to use too much pressure. Don't go too quick. Keep changing your paper, because your paper does tend to get blocked up with the dust. Okay. So can you see a difference? It is quite dark there, and it is getting lighter here, but not here. It depends how much you sand. It depends how much you want to take off. But doing it this way, it's very hard to get a graduated wash. At least I find it hard to get a graduated wash. Another thing you can do here, if you really want to, let it dry. It must be dry. You could use wet and dry sandpaper as well, actually. That's another thing I've done in the past. You can, pick on selected spots where you take the paint out, and then you can apply a different colour in that spot, and then sand it and blend it. So that's that's it with a brush, really. Difficult to graduate, at least I find it is. I've tried diluting the paint first and putting a thin coat on, and then going back and putting a full coat on of this stuff, undiluted. It didn't suit me. It might suit you, but it doesn't suit me. So now we come to the airbrushing part. I've got this, it's only a cheapie, 25-30 quid, I think, off Amazon, I think it was. Gravity fed. Press your trigger once, you get air, pull it back and you get paint. Now how far you pull it back depends on how much paint you get out. So if you just move it back a little bit, small amount of paint. Pull it all the way back, large amount of paint. That can also be controlled by this here. So when I pull that all the way back, I can control that. If I tighten that up, it only comes part way back. So you've got, that's consistent. You'll not get more paint out because you've preset it there. So if I undo that, that's it. I keep this one specifically for spirit stains. And I have another one that I use for acrylics. The other one is an Iwata. This is great. It really is good. I have no complaints about this, and there's a huge difference in price between this and the Iwata one. So shall we give it a go? Right, okay. So I'm going to put some paint in. There you go. Once is there. Tell you what, let's move that down. So once it's there, back is paint. Ah, right. What I didn't do last time I used this, I didn't tighten that up. So in other words, the needle wasn't moving at all. My mistake. Once for air. There you go. See how fine that colour is. Really fine. Now that's not going to penetrate deep into the grain. It's colouring it, and it's just giving a little coat that's just soaked below the surface. Don't let go of the air, by the way. When you pull it, when you want to stop, keep your finger pressed down and you just get in air. So you pull it back again then. Oh, I've run out. I've run out. There, pull it back. I've not pulled it all the way back because I only want to find a fine film to start with, a fine coat to start with. Okay, so you can see how that's giving it a real fine coat. Okay, so if I put some more in now, and we will pick this bottom half, we'll go darker there. Keep the airbrush moving, you don't want to stop in one spot for too long. And that's how you graduate the wash with them. We can go in for a third time and make it even darker. Oh yeah. It's all right. Okay, so here we go with the third coat. Notice how far I am away. Okay. Immediately, I'm going to clean out the airbrush. So that gets rid of any blue that's in there. And you can also put your finger over the end and blow back. That'll do. Okay, so that's dry now. And what we'll do a bit of sanding and see how it turns out. So see, it's really dark there and going light. Let's bring it down a bit. Dark, light. So if I go with the grain, and then move down, don't know whether that's coming across, but it's looking okay from here. So if we pick, see that there, that's nice. You rub over that. This is a piece of ash, by the way. I don't know whether I've said what it was. But you can see how the paint has actually stayed in the soft grain there. So if we pick on a particular spot there, and just go either side of it, try and blend it a bit. You can see how I'm removing the paint, going back to the wood, but the paint is staying in that soft grain there. This obviously wouldn't happen if you were using sycamore because it's a close grained wood. Okay, so now let's say we pick another colour now. If we put if we put red on there, that's going to go, if we touch that, it's going to go purple, isn't it? So just to highlight it, just for the sake of this, we'll go for yellow. Back off a bit. Some yellow paint in. There. Paint. And if we put yellow over blue, the colour's going to change again, isn't it? So we can take the sting out of some of that blue. You know, you put on as much as you want, and you actually take off as much as you want as well. So if we bring that down again, you can see how it works. And of course, what you can do now is we're going to clean the airbrush before we do anything else. I'm going to put my finger over the end, blow back. Get rid of it. I'm going to clean the inside of the pot as well. Okay. Top on there. And of course, what we can do again is stand back. So pick a spot. What should we do? There. Because I've used an airbrush, you can see how the colours have blended. They've blended really well without doing anything else. So you can see the advantage of using an airbrush. Of course, you needn't rub back. You can just leave it as it is. Now, if you look, I don't know whether you can see there, there's tool marks. Now, I did leave them in deliberately so as you could see it. That's why you've got to get a decent finish, decent sanded finish before you put your paint on. Okay. So it's not half bad. Yellow shows up great against the blue, I think, don't you? Well, I hope you found that useful. I will probably take all this off and do something else with it, I think. But I quite like that, actually. It is quite nice. As I say, hope it's useful. If there's any questions, you can always ask on a hands-on night, or when we go back to the club. That would be an ideal chance, wouldn't it? Okay, lads, thanks ever much for watching. I hope it was some use to you. Bye.